Welcome to another Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. Today I'm going to share with you a deep dive into the Burma 45 chat called Pick 64. I haven't done a note from Burma in some time, and they had some odd denominations, so I'm pretty excited to share with you this 45 chat. This has no date on it, but it is from 1987. It is a predominantly blue-green color, but you can see there's some oranges and some greens on the note as well. Have no idea who the printer is for this note, but earlier in the 70s, it was printed in Burma with the assistance of Giesecke and Devrient, which I believe was a German firm. So if anybody knows anything about where this note was printed, pipe up, let us know. The substrate of the whole note is paper, and some sources say that this note was demonetized, but others say that no, that they let it just fall out of circulation due to the lower value or the condition of the note. So there we go. It was introduced on the 22nd of September in 1987. I got my information from numista.com, from a little bit from Wikipedia, and from the standard catalog of world banknotes, or world paper money rather. Who assigned this note a PIC 64 designation. Let's start with the security issues on this lovely note. There is a watermark to the left here that is a direct image of the gentleman who appears on the right side of the note. Let's see if I can't show you that. Ah, yeah, very nice. He's even facing the same way and looking at the same thing. That's very nice. This gentleman is Takin Pohla Gi, and I can't promise that I said anything correct there. I do know that Takin is not really his name as much as it is a title that people from his ethnic minority group or his ethnic group like to use. In addition to the watermark over here, there is an offset register over here. And when I flip the note over, you'll see a similar design here in the center that when you look at the note together, forms a design that matches exactly. And it's very hard for counterfeiters to line up the sides of the banknote, and this is one surefire way to do that. I've seen U.S. banknotes that are so out of kilter that it's no wonder to me that we don't have offset registers on our money, because for all that our money is standardized, we're pretty much still dinosaurs compared to the technology used in just about every other currency system in the entire world. And you're free to cuss me if you disagree. Like the United States, this paper has the embedded red and blue silk fibers. And one thing I don't know is that there were any UV effects on this note. But yeah, you can see because the fibers in the paper fluoresce. So that's something that has to be noted as well. And it looks like the serial number fluoresces as well. I don't really see that there's a design fluorescing in here, but lots of threads. That's kind of cool. And I should have guessed that there were some UV effects. In addition to UV fibers, there are intaglio printing. So when you run your finger over the note, you can feel with your finger, you can feel just like you can on a George Washington Walden dollar bill. You can feel the ridges of the ink that are laid on top of the paper. That is intaglio printing. And strangely enough, if you were able to look closely enough here, there is microprinting. I've had this note for years, and I'd never looked until the other day when I prepared this video. There is microwriting or microprint by the shoulder on this banknote. Let's see. There are also differences in the serial numbers. The serial numbers that as I had mentioned before, were red, and up here they're in the upper left-hand corner, and they're in Western digits, and down here they are red, but they're in Burmese digits. So kind of interesting there. There is extensive lathe work that forms most of the design on this banknote. And when I flip it over, you'll see there as well, there's lathe work. You may notice this streak here on the paper. That's not a flaw. That is the security thread. And there is writing on this security thread. Let's look at the gentleman on this note. This is Po Hla Gi. And he was a strike leader for the workers at Burma Oil. And in this time, he was rebelling against British colonial rule and the fact that they were getting a lot of the wealth from Burma's natural resources, and the people and the workers of Burma were getting nothing, absolutely nothing. So in this strike, which was called the year 1300 strikes, he was the leader of it. He wasn't a leader for very long, though, because he was born in 1909, they think, but he died in 1943 of stomach cancer, so he was rather young when he died. In fact, 34 maybe at the most, so he died very young, but he was militant, and because of his militancy, he had the nickname Alawaka, which I believe stands for the ogre. I mean, that is just how aggressive he was. Still makes me like him. I love it anytime David stands up to a Goliath. If you notice here, I had just noticed that there were chains around his neck, and I don't know if that means his portrait was taken when he was in trouble, or if it was a sign of office, or just what the chains stand for. But you're going to see this banknote again whenever I shoot a video on the theme of chains on banknotes. Let's go ahead and let's turn it over and let's see what we can see on the back of this note. First of all, you should be able to see the offset register over here. And over here, you'll see that there are some stapled holes. But what I want you guys to understand is in this part of Asia, it was very common to have banknotes issued stapled. You couldn't go to a banknote or a bank and get new notes that weren't stapled together in small groups. That's just very common. So you have to, if you're a purist, disregard the requisite staple holes sometimes in a banknote. Fortunately for me, it was taken apart pretty quickly because there's no rusting around those staple marks. But you can see where the security strip is here. You see the beautiful lathe work, but here in the middle we have some neat vignettes. This is an oil field, and except for the presence of that huge body of water in the background, this could be a lot of the oil fields that we had here in central Oklahoma when oil was discovered here in the teens and 20s, making the Oklahoma oil fields some of the biggest oil fields in the world. In fact, it was very common for me until about 10 years ago to drive up and down Shields Boulevard and see these giant derricks from side to side on the street. And for the longest time, we had one under the government building, our state capitol, which pumped oil and then natural gas, and for the longest time made us the only capital of a state that had a working oil well under the government building. And I'm saying it did a lot for Oklahoma. And was there a lot of oil, y'all? Yes, there was. One of these oil wells in Oklahoma City blew, and it rained oil in Norman, which is about 15 miles away from where that oil well blew. That is a lot of oil, and that is a lot of power. I still don't know how they tamed that oil, but there you go. So these gentlemen here are actually workers in the oil field, and I want you to take a look. These are the kind of wear that I am not used to seeing an oil field worker doing. First of all, they're barefoot. There's no steel-toed shoes. So I'm assuming that there must not be an OSHA in Burma. These gentlemen do look more comfortable, I think. They have their hair tied back. And this gentleman over here is wearing a sarong. And oh my gosh, y'all, I don't know if you've ever worn a sarong, but very comfortable, especially when I've gone on a cruise. Love the freedom. All right, back to this video. The sarong, oil field equipment, and then this gentleman wearing very little. It looks like he's wearing a hard hat or something that's going to keep the oil off of him. And he's wearing some sort of garment that's protecting his upper body, but it looks like he's just wearing a Speedo there. I don't think that's a Speedo. I think that that's one of the wraps that the local tribes must have wore to keep things dignified and not X-rated. But he's wearing very little, and it leaves very little to the imagination. But here you go, a 45 chat from Burma. It was just a year or two later that Burma changed its name to Myanmar. So this note and a 90 chat were the last two banknotes of Burma. Let me turn this back over. So what do you think? Is this a note you want for your collection? You should be able to buy it super easily. I think I paid just a couple bucks for mine. Love the denomination. Love the colors. And there has to be more of a story about Burma, oil, Britain, and Po Hla Gi. I am Benjamin. This is Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. Have a jewel of a day.